The message that changed humanity's future arrived during the early hours of a quiet Tuesday morning. Earth's atmosphere was particularly clear that day, as if nature itself knew something extraordinary was about to happen. At the United Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva, the night shift operators first noticed the unusual signal. It pulsed with a rhythm that defied known patterns, broadcasting on frequencies that humans had only theorized about. The signal carried a simple message. Earth was invited to join the Galactic Council. Li Heyun sat in her office, reviewing the message for the 100th time. At 32, she had already served as Earth's top diplomat in 3 major international crises. Her dark hair was neatly tied back, and her formal attire reflected the gravity of the situation. The walls of her office displayed certificates and awards, but none of them had prepared her for this moment. The selection committee had chosen her from thousands of candidates. Many had questioned their decision, citing her age as a disadvantage. But Heyun's record spoke for itself. She had never failed in a diplomatic mission, and her understanding of alien cultures was unmatched. That morning, as she prepared for humanity's first official contact with the Council, her assistant rushed in with news. The Council representatives would appear via hologram in 10 minutes. Heyun straightened her jacket and walked to the conference room, her steps steady despite the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. The conference room transformed as advanced alien technology activated. 12 beings materialized around the table, each representing a different spacefaring civilization. Their forms varied wildly. Some resembled Earth's sea creatures, others looked like living crystals, and a few were barely visible energy patterns. The Aldean representative, who looked like a mix between an Earth praying mantis and a cedar tree, spoke first. Its voice translated through advanced systems, carrying tones of dismissal and superiority. "Your species has barely mastered fusion technology," it stated, mandibles clicking with each word. "Perhaps in a few centuries, you might be ready." Heyun noticed how the other representatives nodded in agreement. She saw the same look she had faced throughout her career, the assumption that youth meant inexperience and inability. But this time, it wasn't just her age they judged, but her entire species. She rose from her seat, her movement graceful and controlled. The room's lighting highlighted her professional demeanor as she addressed the Council. "Distinguished representatives," she began, her voice clear and confident. "Humanity may be young by your standards, but we have achieved in centuries what took others millennia." The Aldean representative's mandibles clicked in amusement. Another being, composed of shifting colors, spoke up. "You still fight among yourselves. Your atmosphere bears the scars of your industrial age. What could you possibly offer the Council?" Heyun smiled slightly. She had expected this reaction. "We offer perspective," she replied. "While older civilizations might see established paths, we see new possibilities. Our very youth gives us the ability to think differently, to solve problems in ways that might not occur to those bound by millennia of tradition." She activated a holographic display, showing Earth's rapid technological progress. In less than 300 years, we went from steam engines to faster-than-light travel. Our adaptability is unmatched. We learn, we grow, and we never stop pushing boundaries. The Council members watched in silence as she presented humanity's achievements. Heyun knew this was just the beginning of a long journey. Earth needed this seat at the Council, not just for protection, but for the opportunity to grow and learn from other civilizations. As she concluded her presentation, the room fell silent. The Aldean representative's mandibles stilled, and the energy beings pulsed with new patterns. Heyun stood her ground, waiting. She remembered her grandmother's words. Patience is not just waiting, but maintaining strength while waiting. Finally, the eldest council member, a being of pure light, spoke. "Your words show wisdom beyond your years, Ambassador Li. Perhaps we should reconsider our initial assessment." Heyun bowed slightly, acknowledging the small victory. This was just the first step, but it was an important one. As the holographic representations began to fade, She caught a glimpse of respect in some of their expressions. Despite their initial prejudice, she had made them think. And that was all humanity needed. A chance to prove itself. Outside the conference room, Earth continued its daily rhythm, unaware that its young ambassador had just opened the door to a future among the stars. He-Yun knew the real challenges were still ahead, but she was ready. Humanity had earned its chance, and she would make sure they made the most of it. A massive council station emerged from the darkness of space like a dream made real. Its crystalline spires caught the light of the nearby neutron star, creating rainbows that danced across the void. The human ship, small in comparison, approached slowly as its crew stared in wonder at the impossible structure before them. Kim Do-han pressed his hand against the viewport, his eyes wide with childlike amazement. While other humans might have felt small in the face of such advanced architecture, he saw only beauty. "Look at how the light bends around those towers," he said to He-Yun. "They're somehow manipulating gravity itself." He-Yun nodded, equally impressed, but maintaining her diplomatic composure. Their ship, the Earth vessel Pioneer, was the first human craft to dock at the station. As they approached, other alien ships moved gracefully around them, their designs as varied as the species that built them. The docking procedure took nearly an hour, their human pilots carefully following instructions in multiple languages. Through the viewport, He-Yun watched maintenance drones that looked like floating jellyfish guide them into position. Do-han kept taking notes on his tablet, his background as a physicist showing in his detailed observations. "The entire station rotates around the neutron star in a way that should be impossible," he explained, excitement clear in his voice. "They're using the star's gravity like a child uses a playground swing, building momentum to stay in a perfect orbit." As they stepped off their ship, the difference in technology became even more apparent. The station's artificial gravity adjusted automatically to each species' needs. The air itself seemed to shimmer with invisible energy fields, and the walls changed color and texture as different beings walked past. Their guide, a tall being made of what looked like living metal, led them through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. Other council members passed by, some floating, others walking on walls or ceiling, all carefully ignoring the human delegation. The council chamber itself was a massive sphere, with platforms arranged in three-dimensional space. Some representatives sat in traditional chairs, while others floated in special containment fields or merged with their platforms directly. He-Yun and Do-han were assigned to one of the lowest platforms, a clear message about Earth's status. The session began with ceremonial greetings in hundreds of languages. He-Yun stood straight, her dark hair perfectly arranged, her uniform crisp. Do-han continued taking notes, fascinated by the various translation methods being used. When Earth's turn came to speak, He-Yun stepped forward. But before she could begin, the Merrick representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell, interrupted. "Esteemed council members," it hummed, its voice creating patterns of light in the air. "I propose we reconsider the human delegation's status. Surely a species so young should first observe and learn. I suggest relegating them to observer status for at least 1 century." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Do-han's hand tightened on his tablet, but He-Yun remained calm. "After all," the Merrick representative continued, its tone dripping with condescension, "your kind still remembers using combustion engines. Some of your vehicles still use them. How can you possibly contribute to discussions about galactic policy?" He-Yun waited for the translation to finish, then stepped forward. The platform's surface rippled under her feet, adjusting to her movement. "Honorable representatives," she began, her voice clear and strong. "It is precisely because we remember our past that we value the future so deeply." She gestured to Do-han, who projected a hologram showing Earth's technological progress. "In the time it takes some species to consider a minor policy change, humanity went from horse-drawn carriages to faster-than-light travel. We don't see our youth as a weakness, but as our greatest strength." The chamber fell silent, the various species turning to watch. Even those who had been ignoring them now paid attention. Duhan smiled slightly, recognizing the shift in the room's energy. "We may be young," Heian continued, "but we bring fresh perspectives to ancient problems. Yes, we remember combustion engines. We also remember every step that led us beyond them. Each challenge we faced, each solution we found, has prepared us for this moment." The Merrick representative's crystalline shell pulsed with colors. But before it could respond, an older member of the council spoke up. "Perhaps," it said, its voice like rustling leaves, "we should listen to what Earth has to say. After all, none of us were born into the stars." As the session continued, Heian and Duhan remained alert and engaged. They knew they had won a small victory, but the real challenge lay ahead. The Council station continued its impossible orbit around the neutron star, a reminder of how far humanity had to go, and how far they had already come. Red emergency lights pulsed through the crystalline corridors of the Council station, casting strange shadows as beings of all species rushed to their designated positions. The alarms had begun during what should have been a routine morning session, their sound designed to be heard by all species, from those who breathe methane to those who existed as pure energy. Heian was reviewing trade agreements with Duhan when the first reports arrived. Unknown ships had appeared at the edges of Council space, attacking without warning or demands. The Ragnar, as they called themselves, struck with devastating precision. In the Council chamber, representatives gathered quickly, their usual formal entrances forgotten. The emergency platforms glowed with a soft blue light as data streams poured in from attacked worlds. Heian watched the casualty numbers rise, her face growing more serious with each update. "The colony on Proxima Beta has gone dark," announced a floating metal sphere, its voice trembling with electronic distress. "We've lost contact with 16 merchant vessels in the Carina sector." Duhan studied the tactical displays, his scientific mind analyzing attack patterns. "They're not random," he whispered to Heian. "Look at how they're targeting communication relays first, then power stations. They understand Council infrastructure." The Aldean representative rose on its platform, mandibles clicking rapidly. "We must follow proper procedures. The Council has protocols for first contact situations, even hostile ones. According to the archives, in the year 47,293, a similar situation." "With respect," interrupted a crystalline being, its facets flashing with agitation, "my people's colony is burning. We need action, not historical precedents." The chamber erupted into arguments. Some representatives demanded immediate military response. Others insisted on attempting communication first. A group of energy beings clustered together, their lights pulsing in rapid debate patterns. Heian watched it all with growing concern. She had seen this before in humanity's own history books. The League of Nations, the United Nations, how many times had bureaucracy and procedure paralyzed action when it was most needed? Duhan touched her arm gently. "The Ragnar have destroyed 3 more colonies while they debate," he said softly. "At this rate," she nodded, understanding. The Council's greatest strength, its careful, measured approach to galactic governance, had become its weakness in this crisis. Thousands of years of peace had left them unprepared for a species that didn't follow their rules. The Merrick representative's voice cut through the chaos. "We should form a committee to study their attack patterns. Give them 3 cycles to complete their analysis, then reconvene to discuss potential responses." 3 cycles? Duhan muttered, checking his translator. "That's nearly 2 Earth weeks." Heian stood up, her movement drawing attention in the chaotic chamber. She had spent weeks learning Council protocol, and now she would use it. "Point of emergency privilege," she called out, using an ancient Council rule that few remembered. The chamber's AI recognized the call, automatically amplifying her voice. "Earth requests emergency speaking rights under Section 7, Paragraph 3 of the Ancient Accords." The arguing slowly died down as representatives turned to look at the human platform, some with surprise, others with annoyance, but all were listening. "While we debate," she began, her voice steady, "colonies burn. While we discuss historical precedents, people die. Humanity has faced this kind of paralysis before, and we learned from it. Sometimes, the correct procedure is to act." She gestured to Duhan, who projected a tactical display. "We've analyzed the Ragnar attack patterns. They're using our own protocols against us, counting on our deliberate response time. They know that by the time we finish proper debate, they'll have established unbreakable holds on their conquered territories." The chamber remained silent as she continued. "Earth may be young, but we remember what it means to fight for survival. We remember how to make quick decisions in crisis. Let us help. Let us show you what humanity can offer the Council." The Aldean representative's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "And if we ignore procedure, what then becomes of our civilization?" "Procedure exists to serve civilization," Heiyun responded, "not to destroy it. Right now, our people need protection more than they need perfect protocol." As if to emphasize her point, another emergency signal flashed across the chamber's displays. Another colony had gone dark, its calls for help ending in static. Duhan stepped forward, adding his voice to Heiyun's. "We have a plan. It's not perfect, it's not following 10,000 years of precedent, but it will save lives. Right now, that's what matters most." The chamber fell silent, the weight of the crisis finally sinking in. Heiyun held her breath, watching the various representatives exchange glances. Everything hung in balance, not just the fate of the attacked colonies, but humanity's chance to prove its worth to the Council. Finally, the eldest Council member spoke, its voice carrying the weight of millennia. Perhaps it is time to listen to our young friends. Speak, Ambassador Li. Tell us your plan." The Council chamber's lights dimmed automatically as Heiyun rose to speak. The platform beneath her feet adjusted its height, ensuring all species could see her. Duhan stood ready at the holographic controls, his fingers steady despite the tension in the room. "Distinguished Council members," Heiyun's voice carried clearly through the vast chamber, "Earth offers a solution." The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds before the first laugh broke out. The Proximan representative, a being of shifting colors and multiple sensory appendages, wiped its sensing organs in what translated as deep amusement. Others joined in, their various forms of laughter creating an unsettling symphony. Heiyun remained still, her posture perfect, waiting for the laughter to fade. Duhan caught her eye and nodded slightly. Everything was ready. "Computer," she called out, "activate primary display sequence." The chamber's center filled with a holographic display of Earth. The planet rotated slowly, showing various periods of human history. "Humanity has faced extinction-level threats 18 times in our recorded history," she continued. "Each time, we adapted. Each time, we survived." The laughter began to die down as images appeared. Ancient armies adapting to superior forces, modern militaries developing new strategies, civilian populations surviving against overwhelming odds. "The Ragnar believe they understand Council tactics because they've studied your history," Heiyun explained. "But they've never faced humans before. We specialize in the unexpected." Duhan stepped forward, adding technical details to the presentation. "Our analysis shows the Ragnar use predictable attack patterns. They expect their targets to follow established defense protocols. But what if we didn't?" The holographic display shifted to show various human military strategies throughout history. "These are what we call asymmetric warfare tactics," Heiyun continued. "When facing a superior force, you don't match their strength, you target their weaknesses." The Aldean representative's mandibles clicked rapidly. "You suggest we abandon 10,000 years of proven military doctrine?" "No," Heiyun replied. "We suggest adding to it. Look here." The display showed a simulation of Ragnar ships following their standard attack pattern. They expect Council ships to maintain formation, to follow proper engagement distances. But what if some ships didn't? Doohan highlighted specific points in the simulation. Small, fast ships could slip through their lines while they're focused on the main fleet, hit their supply lines, disrupt their communications. We've used similar tactics throughout our history. The chamber had grown completely silent now. Even the most dismissive representatives were watching intently as He-Yun and Doohan explained their plan. Humanity learned these lessons the hard way, He-Yun said softly. Through countless conflicts, through near extinctions, through victories and defeats, we know how to fight when everything is at stake. The holographic display showed more historical examples: guerrilla fighters defeating larger armies, smaller nations defending against invasions, civilian resistance movements surviving occupation. The Ragnar expect you to fight like the Council always has, she continued. They don't expect Earth tactics. They don't expect ships to sacrifice perfect formation for tactical advantage. They don't expect attacks from angles they consider improper by Council standards. A being of pure energy floated forward. You speak of chaos, of disorder in battle. This is not our way. No, He-Yun agreed. It's not. That's exactly why it will work. The Ragnar have studied your way. They haven't studied ours. Doohan displayed the final simulation, a combined fleet using both Council and Earth tactics. Council ships maintained their traditional formations while smaller, faster ships darted between enemy lines, disrupting their carefully planned attacks. We're not asking you to abandon your methods, He-Yun explained. We're offering to add ours. Let Council ships fight as they always have, but let human ships do what we do best: adapt, improvise, survive. The chamber remained quiet as the implications sank in. The Proximan representative had stopped laughing, its colors shifting to what translated as deep thought. Finally, the eldest council member spoke. In all our history, we have never combined tactics this way. It goes against all tradition. Yes, He-Yun agreed. That's exactly why the Ragnar won't expect it. They think they know every move you'll make. Let's show them they're wrong. Doohan brought up the casualty reports from the attacked colonies. Every moment we wait, following expected patterns, more lives are lost. We can change that. We can show them that the Council isn't predictable anymore. The chamber erupted in discussion, but it was different now. The dismissive laughter was gone, replaced by serious consideration. He-Yun and Doohan stood quietly, letting the Council members process what they'd seen. Humanity's first real contribution to the Galactic Council might not be their technology or their culture, but something far more basic: their hard-earned knowledge of how to survive against the odds. The Council's simulation chamber was a marvel of technology, its walls lined with quantum processors that could recreate any battle scenario with perfect accuracy. As the chamber prepared for the demonstration, Park Sung-min walked its perimeter, his experienced eyes taking in every detail. Sung-min had spent 20 years analyzing military strategies from every human conflict in recorded history. His fingers moved swiftly across his tablet, making final adjustments to the simulation parameters. Behind him, He-Yun and Doohan spoke quietly with Council representatives. Our tactical analyst is ready, He-Yun announced to the gathered Council members. We propose a single demonstration, one simulation to prove our methods can work. The Aldean representative's mandibles clicked in what humans had learned was amusement. And if your simulation fails, then we withdraw our proposal completely, He-Yun replied firmly. We'll accept whatever traditional response the Council decides. Sung-min stepped to the center of the chamber. His usual calm demeanor masked the intensity of his focus. The simulation controls responded to his movements as he began the setup process. We will recreate the Ragnar's most successful attack pattern, he explained, his voice steady. The assault on Proxima Beta Colony. But this time, we'll defend it using our combined strategy. The chamber darkened, and suddenly they were in space. The holographic recreation was so perfect that several council members instinctively activated their gravity controls. Proxima Beta appeared before them, its 3 moons casting shadows on the colony's protective shields. Standard Council defense formation would place the main fleet here, some men indicated, showing the traditional pattern. The Ragnar knew this. They counted on it. He input additional commands and small markers appeared, representing various ships and defensive positions. But watch what happens when we add human elements to the strategy. The simulation began. The Ragnar ships appeared exactly as they had in the real attack, their formation perfect and devastating. But this time, the defense was different. While the main Council fleet maintained its traditional position, smaller ships darted between asteroids and used the moon's gravity wells in ways that made several Council members gasp. The Ragnar's perfect formation began to break as they encountered resistance from unexpected angles. Notice how we're not trying to match their main force, some men explained, highlighting key moments. We're disrupting their supply lines here, their communication arrays here, making them react to us instead of following their plan. 4 hours passed like minutes as Sung Min ran simulation after simulation, each time showing how different human tactics could complement Council strategies. He demonstrated guerrilla warfare techniques adapted for space combat, showing how smaller ships could effectively harass larger forces. The Council members watched in silence as familiar battles played out with very different results. The Proximan representative's colors shifted rapidly as it processed the implications of what it was seeing. This approach, Sung Min continued, combines Council ships' superior technology with human tactical flexibility. We're not asking you to change who you are. We're offering to add our strengths to yours. The simulation reached its climax as a combined human Council fleet executed a complex maneuver that would have been impossible for either group alone. Council ships provided the main force, while human-style tactics created chaos in the enemy ranks. When the final results appeared, they were undeniable. The simulated defense had not only stopped the Ragnar attack, but had done so with minimal casualties on either side. In the actual battle, He-Yun noted quietly, the colony was lost with all hands. In this simulation, we saved everyone. The chamber remained silent as the holographic displays faded. Some men stood calmly, waiting for the Council's response. His simulations had shown more than just military tactics. They had demonstrated humanity's potential contribution to the galactic community. Finally, the eldest Council member floated forward. In all our years of space combat, we never considered such unconventional approaches. That's exactly why they work, Sung Min replied. The Ragnar studied your tactics for years, learning every possible response. But they've never encountered human strategies before. The Council members began to discuss among themselves their various forms of communication, creating a symphony of clicks, hums, and light patterns. He-Yun and Du-Han exchanged hopeful glances as the debate continued. For the first time, the Council was seeing humanity not as primitive newcomers, but as allies who could offer something unique. Sung Min's demonstration had shown them that sometimes the best solution came from combining the wisdom of age with the innovation of youth. As the chamber lights returned to normal, the decision hung in the balance. Humanity had proven its worth in simulation. Soon, they would have the chance to prove it in reality. The combined fleet gathered at the edge of Council space, a sight unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Traditional Council warships, massive and graceful, held their perfect formation. Between them, smaller Earth vessels darted about like schools of fish, their movements appearing chaotic, but following a carefully planned pattern. From the command center of the Council flagship, Du-Han watched the tactical displays with intense focus. Around him, beings of various species worked together, learning to blend their different approaches to space combat. The ship's crystalline walls pulsed with energy as final preparations were made. "All ships report ready," announced the Aldean tactical officer, its mandibles moving in precise patterns. "Though I must note, the Earth vessels are not maintaining proper spacing." Du-Han smiled slightly. "They're exactly where they need to be," he replied, checking his displays. "Remember, unpredictability is part of our strategy." The first engagement came 3 days into the operation. Ragnar's ships appeared exactly where some Min's simulations had predicted, their formation perfect and threatening. They expected to find a traditional Council defense line. Instead, they found chaos. Earth ships broke formation immediately, scattering in seemingly random directions. The Ragnar commanders, following their carefully studied plans, moved to contain what they saw as a panicked retreat. It was exactly what Duhan had been waiting for. Now, he commanded. The Council ships advanced in their traditional pattern, drawing the Ragnar's main attention. Meanwhile, Earth vessels slipped through gaps in their formation, targeting communication arrays and power systems with surgical precision. Back at the Council station, Hei-Yun worked tirelessly in the diplomatic center. Her screens showed multiple conversations at once as she coordinated with various species and managed the political aspects of the campaign. When reports of the first victory arrived, she allowed herself a small smile. The pattern continued for weeks. Each time the Ragnar attacked, they found their carefully planned strategies disrupted by unexpected tactics. Council ships provided the main force while Earth vessels struck from impossible angles, using asteroids, planetary gravity wells, and even solar winds in ways the Ragnar had never considered. Duhan's command center became a model of cooperation. Council tactical officers learned to think flexibly while human crews learned to utilize advanced alien technology. Together, they created something entirely new, a fighting force that combined the best of both worlds. "They're adjusting their tactics," reported a human analyst during the 6th week. "Trying to adapt to our style." "Good," Duhan replied. "That means they're no longer fighting the way they planned. Now they're reacting to us instead of following their original strategy." The turning point came during the battle for the Carina sector. The Ragnar launched a massive assault, confident they had finally decoded the new human council tactics. Instead, they found themselves facing yet another innovation. Earth ships had been equipped with council technology, creating hybrid vessels that could perform maneuvers previously thought impossible. The Ragnar fleet, caught between traditional council power and human unpredictability, suffered their first major defeat. Hei-Yun received the first peace feeler 2 days later. The message came through unofficial channels, testing the waters. She coordinated with both council diplomats and human negotiators, crafting a response that would open dialogue while maintaining a strong position. "They're starting to understand," she told Duhan during one of their brief communications. "Not just our military capability, but our way of thinking. That's what's really frightening them." The final battles were smaller, more desperate. The Ragnar tried everything they could think of, but each time they found themselves facing new variations of the human council tactics. Their carefully planned conquest was falling apart in the face of strategies they couldn't predict. 7 weeks and 3 days after the campaign began, the main Ragnar fleet retreated to their home territory. 2 days later, official peace overtures arrived at the council station. The combined fleet began to stand down, ship by ship. Council vessels resumed their elegant formations, while Earth ships gathered around them like honor guards. In the command center, Duhan watched the tactical displays clear of enemy contacts for the first time in 2 months. "You've changed everything," the Aldean tactical officer told him. "The way we think about space combat, about cooperation between species, nothing will be the same." Duhan nodded, thinking of all they had achieved. The Council had gained new tactics and a new perspective. Earth had proven its worth and gained access to advanced technology. Together, they had created something greater than either could have achieved alone. Back at the Council station, Hei-Yun prepared for the peace negotiations. The Ragnar would arrive soon, ready to discuss terms. They would find not just the traditional Council diplomats, but also human negotiators, ready to bring new perspectives to the peace process just as they had to the war. The galaxy had changed. The Council had learned that age and tradition, while valuable, were not everything. Humanity had shown that youth and innovation, properly applied, could solve problems that had seemed insurmountable. The Grand Council chamber seemed different now. The same crystalline walls still caught the light of the neutron star, but the atmosphere had changed completely. Where once there had been whispers and dismissive glances, now there was attentive silence as He-Yun presented her final report on the Ragnar crisis. The platforms held representatives from every council species, their various forms creating a living portrait of galactic diversity. Du-Han sat nearby, his tablet displaying the final statistics of their successful campaign. The numbers told a clear story of victory, but the real triumph was in the changed attitudes around them. The combined fleet strategy exceeded all expectations, He-Yun stated, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Not only did we repel the Ragnar threat, but we established a new framework for cooperation between species. The tactical displays showed the final battle statistics. Council members who had once laughed at human methods now leaned forward, studying the results with intense interest. The Proximan representative's colors shifted in patterns that indicated deep respect, a dramatic change from its earlier dismissal. But beyond the military victory, He-Yun continued, we achieved something far more valuable. We proved that different approaches, different perspectives, can work together to create something greater than the sum of its parts. Du-Han activated a new display, showing how council technology and human tactics had merged to create new possibilities. The Aldean representative's mandibles moved in a pattern that humans had learned meant agreement. Humanity has always been underestimated, He-Yun said, her voice carrying a quiet strength. Our youth was seen as a weakness. Our adaptability was dismissed as chaos. Our determination was viewed as primitive stubbornness. But these very qualities proved crucial in our time of crisis. She paused, looking around the chamber. We don't ask for special treatment, only respect as equals. Each species in this council brings unique strengths. Today, we have shown what humanity can contribute. The chamber fell silent as the eldest council member floated forward. Its energy form pulsed with colors that the translators interpreted as deep thought. In all our long history, it began, we have never seen such an innovative response to crisis. Perhaps it took the young species to show us new possibilities. The voting process began immediately. One by one, the representatives indicated their choice. The crystalline walls reflected their various forms of agreement. Light patterns, sound waves, energy pulses, all meaning yes. When the final vote was recorded, it was unanimous. Earth would be granted full member status in the Galactic Council, with all the rights and responsibilities that entailed. The chamber erupted in various forms of celebration, each species expressing joy in its own way. As He-Yun and Du-Han prepared to leave the chamber, the Aldean representative approached them. Its tall form moved with graceful precision as it spoke. Perhaps, it said quietly, it is we who had something to learn. Your species has taught us that wisdom can come in many forms. Weeks later, back on Earth, He-Yun stood in her office at the United Earth Defense Headquarters. The night sky spread out before her, stars twinkling with new meaning. Each point of light represented not just distant suns, but worlds and species that were now Earth's allies and equals. Du-Han joined her at the window, his tablet showing the latest updates from the Council. New joint projects were already underway, combining human innovation with Council technology. They're actually asking for our input now, he said with a smile. Real questions, not just polite formalities. He-Yun nodded, remembering how far they had come. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through age or advanced technology, but through the very qualities others had mocked. Adaptability, determination, and the wisdom to learn from history while not being bound by it. The comm unit on her desk chimed with another message from the Council station. More species were requesting human advisors, eager to learn new ways of thinking about old problems. The Galactic Council had laughed at humanity once, but they weren't laughing anymore. Instead, they were learning, growing, and changing, just as humanity had always done. The stars seemed brighter somehow, full of new possibilities. Earth's children had taken their first real steps into the galactic community, not as juniors to be tolerated, but as equals to be respected. The future stretched out before them, full of promise and potential, ready to be shaped by the combined wisdom of all species.